What's up everybody, it is I, Hero Vange, and welcome to another episode of the updated Fusion Cup Meta Simplified Guide. This is episode number 2. Today we're gonna talk about the Steel, the Ice, and the Fairy, alright? We're gonna talk about like coverage, we're gonna compare and contrast the different choices that you have for these elements. But before we get into it, make sure that you've watched episode number 1 right there, which is about the Flyers and the Fires. Definitely a good starting point for the updated Meta Simplified Guide. And then when episode 3 comes out, we're gonna talk about what's left of the meta, which is basically the water, the counter users, and the grass types. I almost forgot the third one, but when it's done, when I'm done recording, editing, and uploading it, it's gonna be right there. So let's begin with the steel types. And the steel types, what they have in common with Ice and Fairy is that they're all pretty good anti-flying Pokemon. The best one, hands down, the hardest counter I think to the flying type Pokemon in the whole entire cup, Probopass with Rock Throw. You don't have to block, you store up a lot of energy, and you just farm down, right? Both Noctowl and Altaria. Altaria gets a little bit closer to beating down Probopass, 8 HP with bad IVs, but if you maximize this, actually, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's not gonna kill you, right? You don't have to block. Just store that energy and throw. Like 46 like HP, that's still a good amount, right? So store that energy, throw it on the next Pokemon, and yeah. Now, the deal with Empoleon and Altaria is that it has to land the Flash Cannon for the win. And the thing is, you cannot go straight Hydro Cannon like this. It's not gonna be enough to kill Altaria. You cannot go straight Flash Cannon because you're not gonna get to the second one to kill it, right? You have to bait and then land, or basically land the Flash Cannon to kill Altaria. That's definitely one of the disadvantages of using Empoleon, but Empoleon makes up for it in the fire type coverage because Empoleon is a fantastic water type Pokemon. Waterfall, Hydro Cannon has the fire types. Now, as you can see, some of the steel types still have some fire type coverage, specifically like Probopass. Bronzong here is a little bit iffy. Really difficult matchup for both parties. It's difficult to explain, right? So with default stats, straight Bone Club will leave you with 44 HP, but if you go straight Shadow Ball, it's actually very, very close to HP. If you maximize with straight Shadow Ball, you're gonna get a little bit more HP, 6 HP. And then if you go straight Bone Club, you actually simultaneous KO. Right? So it's weird. Kind of a really bad matchup for both. You can't really say that Bronzong is a Marowak counter. Definitely not. But you also can't really say that Marowak is a Bronzong counter. I really think that the best thing to do there is to bait with the Bone Club and then land the Shadow Ball for the kill, right? Because if you risk it for the biscuit, let's say, and go straight Shadow Ball, what if you don't have enough HP to get to that second one? And then with Probopass Marowak, now with default stats, Marowak takes the cake, right? Takes the cake. Like, it's a pretty clean win. If you maximize, meaning if your Probopass has fantastic IVs, it gets to the third Rock Slide for the kill. It's very, very close. Now with the Rock Throw Probopass, I highly suggest that you just farm it down, right? Just farm it down block once, even if the Marowak has fantastic IVs. But the thing is, it's gonna be close again, but I think this makes it like a more sure thing, and then just spam your charge attacks right after because you gotta throw that energy, right? Now before we move on to the next section, some of you guys might be wondering, bro, Spark Probopass, I mean, Rock Throw is the way. You know, you can farm down Altaria, you can farm down Noctowl, and just devastate. Since some new Pokemon have shown up, I think Spark has some advantages as well, alright? And we will cover it in this video. Moving on to Steel type coverage. This is actually very interesting. You're gonna learn a lot from this, right? Because we have not covered this with Empoleon. Now, usually Bronzong is the most dominant steel type, right? It can handle Alone Sandslash, it can handle Probopass, straight bulldoze. Okay, like Rock Throw, Spark doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Just straight bulldoze. Empoleon can beat Bronzong, alright? Can beat Alolan Sandslash, but then with Probopass, and this, very, very interesting. If you're battling a Rock Throw Probopass, no chance, right? If you're battling a Spark Probopass, and this is, you know, why I mentioned this earlier, right? You can go straight Thunderbolt for the clear win, right? 27 HP. Okay, is that not hype? I got hyped when I found this out. I was like, dang! And you know that in the tournaments, people like that rock throw, okay? Because they like to farm down the birds. But now, there's a reason to pick up the Spark instead, because Spark gives you that Empoleon matchup. And, you know, so far, Empoleon is looking pretty impressive. Spark rock throw again. The differences between the matchups not that big, right? The things that you win. The things that you lose, you still lose. So, you know, but this is an advantage. Actually, I was thinking that maybe you guys were also wondering who wins, Rock Throw or Spark Probopass. The answer is Spark, hands down. IV based, not really. Alright, actually, so this is with default stats. This is with maximized stats. It's just straight Thunderbolt, right? I think you outspam. Okay, but yeah, you outspam. And so now you have two dominant steel type Pokemon, I would say. Bronzong, because it can handle Alolan Sandslash, Spark, and Rock Throw Probopass, and Empoleon, which can handle Bronzong, Alolan Sandslash, and Rock Throw Probopass, right? So they're very good steel type killers. Now the deal with Alolan Sandslash and Probopass, it depends on IVs and if Alolan Sandslash can hit this Bulldoze, right? So if it can hit that Bulldoze, plus if it has fantastic IVs, that's with default by the way, right? So this is with maximize. It can get to this Ice Punch to kill Spark Probopass. Rock Throw actually has a better time, but it's also pretty close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alolan Sandslash, you know, in some IV spreads can kind of like pull this off. It's so close, right? It's so close. That's with the default stats once again with the maximized. Yeah, it's pretty close as well. But how many Powder Snows to a Bulldoze? It's Bull Date. That sounds bad, dude. That sounds bad. I'm doing it to help you remember. 8 Powder Snows to a Bulldoze. Bull 8. Moving on to the ice types, the steel types are actually pretty good ice type counters. It's like a shovel, you know, they just get the hell out of here, alright? Frostlass does beat Bronzong straight Shadow Ball, right? So that's one thing, and then the deal with Sandslash and Frostlass is a shootout. Plus it's an IV type thing. It cannot, like, none of them can go straight something, and it's very IV based. That's with default stats. If you maximize, it's IV based, guys, right? And it's a shootout, so it's a difficult situation. Gyro Ball helps out a lot, but it doesn't help out with Cloister, which can actually straight Hydro Pump you if you go straight Gyro Ball. The better moveset to have is the usual Ice Punch Bulldoze, because it makes it a shootout, right? So again, if it can land the Hydro Pump, you lose, but if it doesn't, let's say go straight Hydro Pump, let's say you block the Hydro Pump, right? You can actually get to this Bulldoze to kill it, but it's also IV based, so very similar to Frostlass, right? Very IV based, and yeah, if you're battling a very good Cloister, it can actually survive with 2 HP straight Hydro Pump, and if you get baited, But how many Powder Snows to a Shadow Ball, and how many Ice Shards to a Hydro Pump? Let's start with a Hydro Pump. That's a lot easier. It's Pump 8. Pump it. Pump it. Pump 8. Once again, 8. 8 Ice Shards to a Hydro Pump 8. Alright, this one's a little bit lame, right? Powder Snow to Shadow Ball is an emo move, right? Shadow Scythe, alright? Because it's a 7. I'm so lame. It's a Shadow Scythe. 7. The Scythe, alright. Powder Snows to a Shadow Ball. I am so sorry. I hope you remember it. With the Fairies, they're very good Fairy Slayers, except for Alolan Sandslash and Alolan Ninetails. That matchup has been here since, what, Ferocious? You have to land 2 Bulldozes, and you cannot go straight Bulldoze because you're not gonna get to the 3rd one, right? So, yeah, you have to land the bait and then land 2 Bulldozes. And the thing is, Gyro Ball definitely helps here. You can go straight Gyro Ball. So yeah, the moveset really varies if you want more Fairy type coverage, if you want a little bit more Ice type coverage, right, with Frostlass and not Cloister, then Gyro Ball might be the thing that you're looking for. If you're looking for a chance to kill Probopass, a chance to kill Cloister, maybe like a nice throw on Alolan Marowak, then Bulldoze is the way to go. I guess Gyro Ball has a lot more clear matches, but it also makes you so vulnerable to so many other things like the Steel types. No way, there's nothing you can do. Moving on to the water type coverage, we've got Bronzong beating out Poliwrath, which is nice, and then the rest, the Mud Boys and Poliwrath beat out most of the steel types except for Empoleon. And this is again another thing that sets Empoleon apart from the other steel types. Now, with Whiscash, it is IV based. Definitely when Empoleon Community Day pops off, you want to get like a high ranking Empoleon. As you can see, 53 HP. But if you maximize, right, have a fantastic Empoleon, and let's hope and pray for the best luck possible during that day. Boom! You're left with 5 HP, but still, that's kind of nice because the next Pokemon won't really farm up much. So sometimes it's based off IVs, but other times, like with Swampert, it is based off your skill at blocking the right thing, right? Or counting, right? So you want to block this. It's 164 damage, alright? This Earthquake does more damage than Empoleon's life. Let's say if you went straight Earthquake, you blocked it, and yeah, you can do it. So with Whiscash, it's an IV based thing. With Swampert, it's based off if you can block the Earthquake. With Quagsire, this is purely luck based, like right now, okay? Because CMP is not attack based yet, right? But once it is, you don't have to worry, just block the first one because you have way more attack than Quagsire. Your Empoleon has a chance to beat these guys, at least they don't get completely beat down by the Mud Boys like most of the steals, right? So there's a chance. So again, have fantastic IVs, know the counting for Earthquake. What is it? Alright, it's Earthquake. 8 mud shots. Okay, there you go. Some mnemonics. There we go. Okay, back with the mnemonics. Moving on to the counter users. Nothing really to talk about here. Bronzong beats Heracross. That's nice. The rest get demolished. And finally, the grass type coverage. Now, this is another advantage that Alolan Sandslash has, but this is kind of like unique to it. It's the only one with a clear win against Shiftry. Clear. Is that important? I would say very important because Shiftry is the most common grass type in the whole entire cup, right? Venusaur, I would say like Venusaur Shiftry is like 60-40, a little bit more towards Shiftry, and so Shiftry is going to be more common, and so I think that is a more important match. Alright, so let's stay on the topic of Shiftry versus the steel types, right? So with Shiftry versus Bronzong, we don't have to talk about that. That's a clear win for Shiftry, but with Probopass, it's a CMP tie. Maximize stats or default stats, it's a CMP tie. Shiftry has way more attack, so if ever that's applied, then Shiftry will go and get the win. With Rock Throw Probopass, it is IV based. This is with default stats, and then so that's with a bad IV Shiftry, but if you have fantastic IVs on your Shiftry, you get to another CMP tie. Alright, so yeah, Empoleon is the same as Spark Probopass. It's a CMP tie, but Shiftry has massive attack, right? So yeah, one thing that you absolutely have to remember when you're thinking Shiftry versus the steel types is that Shiftry comes out with a good chunk of HP if you lose those CMP ties, right? So if you don't have a proper counter to Shiftry, it's gonna be a bad time. Alright, so that's why Alolan Sandslash is so important. The last matchup that we have to talk about with the steel types, Venusaur and Probopass, it's a CMP tie. Spark, Rock Throw, doesn't matter, and Venusaur has more attack. That's it. Advantages, disadvantages of your various steel types. Let's start off with Bronzong. Bronzong is a psychic type, so that gives it the advantage against the others for matchups like Poliwrath, Heracross, Breloom, and since Venusaur is a poison type, Venusaur. Bronzong is also one of the dominant steel types because it can straight bulldoze Alolan Sandslash and both versions of Probopass. Disadvantages, because it's a psychic type, it loses to the ghost types, Frostlass, straight Shadow Ball, and the dark types, Shiftry, straight Foul Play. For Alolan Sandslash, it's a very good grass type slayer. It's actually the best grass type slayer out of all the steel types. It can handle both Venusaur and Shiftry is actually unique to it. Comparing Alolan Sandslash to the other steel types, honestly, it's not that good of a steel type compared to the others, but it does have that Shiftry matchup. One comparison that we can make is Gyro Ball versus Bulldoze. Gyro Ball will give you 2 extra clear matches. One is Frostlass. The other one is Charm Alone the Ninetails. Bulldoze doesn't really give you more clear matchups, but it does give you 2 extra iffy playable matches. One of them is Probopass, and the other one is Cloister. But the thing about Bulldoze is it just gives you something nice to throw at most things because Gyro Ball is not a very good move in this meta except for those 2 clear matches. Disadvantages: Alolan Sandslash not only has not the best coverage out of the steel types, it also has, I think, the worst times with double weaknesses like fire and fighting. Rock Throw Probopass is the hardest counter to anything that flies. Both Rock Throw and Spark Probopass have some fire type coverage with Charizard. Spark Probopass can beat Empoleon straight Thunderbolt. There's not a lot of difference between Rock Throw and Spark, so I really recommend Spark because of this Empoleon matchup. Disadvantages: now, Probopass does have some problem with double weaknesses as well, like fighting, but it doesn't have the same problem as Alolan Sandslash with the coverage, right? The coverage, I think, is pretty solid. One problem that Probopass does have in this meta is the Mud Boys. They completely wall Probopass. Empoleon has the best fire type coverage out of all the steel types. Empoleon is the only steel type with a chance against the Mud Boys. It's one of the dominant steels and it can handle all of them except for Spark Probopass. Disadvantages: it's the only one that clearly loses to Venusaur. Other disadvantages, but this is just for me, alright? It pops off on the day of my weighted tournament. That was a lot for one element. Yeah, it's 4 Pokemon, yes, but one of them is Empoleon. Plus, we didn't really like cover Spark Probopass that much in the old Fusion Cup meta simplified, right? So I really had to like show you the stuff and the things. But you goods? You got snacks? Alright, your brain burning right now? Okay, you're just, I don't know, tired mentally. If you want to take a break, sure, fine. Use the pinned comment. There's timestamps there so that you can like jump back to here later. All right, so you can take a break. Okay, but we're moving on to the ice types, and this is ice type Ninetales, right? So powder snow. All right. But what do they have in common again with the steel types? The flyers. Moving on to the fire type coverage, there's a lot of bad situations here, but it's not as clear as you'd think, right? Some matchups with good IVs like Frostlass versus Alolan Marowak are shootouts, right? So this is with default stats. It's pretty bad, but if you have a fantastic IV, Frostlass can actually get to a Shadow Ball, right? So you can kind of like pull this off. Obviously, if you land this, Marowak is dead, right? So this is one reason why you definitely want fantastic IVs on your Frostlass. Now, another shootout match, Alolan Ninetails versus Charizard, right? You definitely want to land the Ice Beam, and since Charizard is part flying, and since it's very squishy, a neutral Ice Beam will kill it. Last shootout match, Cloister versus Charizard. It is a CMP tie, but if you block the Blast Burn, you win. Now for those shootout matches, you can actually go straight Shadow Ball, straight Ice Beam, and straight, well, obviously straight Icy Wind, as long as you block the killing blow, right? So the dangerous moves. So you really have to get used to counting these Pokemon, right? So for Shadow Ball, what is it? It is 6. How do you remember that? Just count the letters on Shadow. Okay? Shadow. Okay? And then for Blast Burn, it's like Blast Burns. S. The S is a 5, right? So 6 Fire Spins to a Shadow Ball, 5 for a Blast Burns. But I highly suggest that in these matchups, you try to play it as best as you can, so be tricky. Steel types, let's recap, alright? Frostlass can beat Bronzong, straight Shadow Ball. Alright? And then with Sandslash, you remember Gyro Ball really helps with Frostlass. If not, it's a shootout. Okay? And then with Cloister, Gyro Ball is really bad because you get straight Hydro Pumped, right? If you have Bulldoze, then it's a shootout. So from an ice type standpoint, right, it's very important to know what Alolan Sandslash is running. Ice type coverage. Now this looks really confusing, right? But let me break it down for you so that it's nice and clear in your head, alright? So for Cloister versus Alolan Ninetales, that's the one clear match, right? Cloister wins straight Hydro Pump. Bad IVs, best IVs, does not matter, straight Hydro Pump. Alright, that's with default. This is maximized, it is straight Hydro Pump. Alright? Frostlass versus Ninetales, this is another reason why you want fantastic IVs, because you cannot get to your your second Avalanche if you have default IVs like trash IVs. You have to have like fantastic IVs to survive this so that you can get to another avalanche, and that means you win, but it is a shootout. What's the mnemonic again? It's Shadow Scythe, right? 7 Scythe, alright? You remember the... Yeah, but the thing is, it gets confusing with Fire Spin Shadow Ball, right? So, I guess you can think like Cold Steel, alright? So, I don't know, I'm trying my best to help you remember. Scythe, Cold, Powder Snow, Steel, you got it? Okay. But what's Fire Spin to Shadow Ball, right? What is it? It's Shadow, right? 6 Shadow, okay? So just remember the cold thing. I don't know, I'm trying my best here, okay? For Frostlass Cloister, all you have to do is block the Hydro Pump, right? So if you block this Hydro Pump, fantastic. If you get baited, you're dead, right? So what's the mnemonic again for Hydro Pump? Can you remember? Ice Shard Hydro Pump is Hydro Pump 8. Hydro Pump it. Get it? 8 Ice Shards, so you get it, you got it. Fairy type coverage. Now, the fairies are fantastic ice type slayers, right? The only one that you can beat is Togekiss, but the thing is, with Frostlass and Togekiss, it's an IV thing once again. 5 HP for Frostlass has to get fantastic IV. So again, I keep emphasizing, have fantastic IVs on your Frostlass. Water type coverage. Complicated once again, right? There's so many things to the ice types. There's just a lot of matches, alright? So, let's start off with the one that's easiest, right? Cloister. Cloister, you land the Hydro Pump, you win, alright? The thing is with Whiscash, not IV based. Default, maximize stats, just as long as you land this Hydro Pump, you win. With the Quagsire, it is IV based. It is IV based, so have fantastic IVs on your Cloister. If not, you lose like that, straight Stone Edge. But if you maximize, you do have a chance, right, to land the Hydro Pump. Always try to go for the Hydro Pump, right? It will flip over the match. And then with Swampert over there, so Cloister, Swampert, right? You got it. Ice Wind, Icy Wind, okay? It's squishy, you got it. But with Poliwrath, since you're the Ice type that doesn't have a typing that protects you from fighting, like Ghost, like Fairy, you're dead. Moving on to the second, less complicated, is Alone the Ninetails, right? And with Whiscash, it's a shootout. It doesn't matter with IVs, that's with default. With maximized, it is still a shootout. So yeah, it doesn't matter, just play it to your best. Now, Ninetails versus Poliwrath, if you get baited, it's over, right? It is over. But if you don't get baited, it's a CMP tie, so it's not that great as well. And it doesn't matter with the IVs. It just, if you get baited, you're dead. With Ninetails Swampert, it is so close, but I ran the sims like maximized, and with default, it's always Swampert wins. So I guess that's a clear win, but it is so like single digit HP. With Quagsire, Quagsire is generally bad news for the ice types. The most complicated one, Frostlass, right? The only thing clear about Frostlass is that it loses to Quagsire, right? So for Whiscash, it is IV based. And I actually was shocked when I found this out, right? Because it looks like a clear win, but if you maximize, it can actually survive to get to the third avalanche for the kill. 3 HP, guys. 3 HP. Same thing for Swampert. Okay, default stats, Frostlass completely wins. But if you are facing someone with a fantastic IV Swampert, it's a legacy Pokemon, but I mean, you know, December Community Day was just like last month, right? It was last year, but still, it was just last month, so they probably have fantastic IVs on their Swampert. 4 HP, guys. And finally, guys, for Poliwrath, it's both IV based and a shootout. Alright, so what's the advice? What's the take-home advice here, right? If you want to play an ice type, have the best IVs and play your best. Alright, land what you have to land and just play your best, okay? Or you can actually think about using these Pokemon as safe switches, because giving them some energy would, I guess, turn around a lot of these matches, because they have like so many close matches. Alright, some clear matches. Nice. This is much easier to understand, right? Frostlass, straight Avalanche on Heracross, and then since Escavalier is a Steel type, straight Shadow Ball. And then with Alone the Ninetails, you can beat Heracross, yes, but Escavalier being a Steel type resists all your moves. So no, you don't have Shadow Ball like Frostlass here, so you cannot beat Escavalier. And then with Cloister, it is the Ice type that does not have a protective typing against fighting, and so it loses. Okay, we got a lot to cover. Let's start. We can get through this, alright? Hold my hand. Just You can't touch me through this. Don't worry about it, okay? Frostlass versus Venusaur. This is a CMP tie, and it's not IV based currently. And I say that because the attack stat is overlapping, right? So you can have a Venusaur with a higher attack stat or a Frostlass with a higher attack stat, right? So CMP attack tiebreaker, when that gets applied, this will matter. Frostlass versus Breloom. This is IV based 100%, right? So definitely have fantastic IVs on your Frostlass. It's a CMP tie once again, but yes, you can survive. And this is a bulk point, 116.03. Alright? That is what the defense that you need for your Frostlass to survive this. How do you check that? You plug in your stats here, you play with the level, and then you can check your stats over here, okay? Frostlass versus Shiftry is a clear loss. Straight foul play, you lose. Moving on to Alone the Ninetails versus Venusaur. It depends if you get hit by the Sludge Bomb, right? If you block it, you got it. Alright? If you get hit with 2 Frenzy Plants, you got it. Okay? So, yeah. So how do you count? Here's the thing. Okay? Toxicity, alright? Sludge, poison equals death, right? And what does death carry? A Scythe. So Sludge, Scythe, 7. Once again, yes, I'm recycling it, okay? But it works, right? You remember it? Shadow Scythe, Sludge Scythe, okay? What was the Shadow Scythe again? Cold Steel, Powder Snow, okay? And then for the other one, Fire Spin, for Marowak, it's 6, Shadow. Okay, you got this, okay, you got this. Alone the Ninetails versus Shiftry, you have to land the Ice Beam, right? You have to bait because you cannot do double. Now, how do you count Ice Beam if you're Shiftry, right? If you're on the other side, how do you count so that you block the right thing or like have a chance to block the right thing? Well, it's actually the same as Powder Snow, Shadow Ball, it's 7. So we can still kind of like use that Ice Scythe, right? Or you can just count Ice Beam, that's 7 letters right there. Honestly, it's getting pretty difficult to keep up with all these mnemonics, all these, counts. And so I'm just gonna put it in the pinned comment down below, like a summarized version, so that it's easy for you to remember, alright? Alone the Ninetails versus Breloom. It's a CMP tie, but Breloom has massive attack, like 150 attack. I think that's the highest attack I've seen ever in PvP. So yeah, just remember that if ever attack CMP tiebreaker gets applied, Breloom. And finally, Cloister versus Breloom, which is, it depends on what your opponent does, right? If your opponent just counters you down, right? And if you know they know this matchup, then they win by a large margin, right? But if they don't, you have a chance to win. Cloister also has some clear matchups. It clearly loses to Venusaur, straight Frenzy Plant, and it clearly wins Shiftry. You just have to throw 1 Icy Wind and then farm down. Moving on to advantages, disadvantages. Frostlass can beat Bronzong, straight Shadow Ball, so it has some clear Steel type coverage. Frostlass also has the best counterer matchup profile out of all the ice types. The disadvantage with Frostlass is since it's a ghost type, the Shiftry matchup is really bad. Straight foul play beats Frostlass. Advantages for Powder Snow, Alone the Ninetails, honestly, not a lot. Yeah, just, I guess, Heracross, you know, some counter coverage, I guess. But honestly, Ninetails has pretty bad coverage compared to like Frostlass, compared to Cloister, and it's a little bit like in between the two of them, and also not as good as either one. And finally, advantages for Cloister. Not only does it have the same iffy playable matches as the other ice types, it actually has some clear positive matchups that actually matter, like this one, Swampert. Swampert is in the tournaments, and that is gonna matter. Another one, Shiftry. Shiftry definitely matters. Most common grass type in the whole entire meta, and so yes, this is important. Some disadvantages, it's the ice type that does not have a fighting protective secondary element, so yes, the fighting types demolish it. And as you can see, Cloister and Frostlass are kind of like side grades of each other. You want something that covers Bronzong plus counter users? Frostlass, but the thing is, it's weak to Shiftry, right? You want something that covers Swampert and Shiftry? Then Cloister, but the thing is, it's weak to counter users. They're side grades, alright? Before we move on to the fairies, once again, for the ice types, get the best IVs. Play it to your best skill because with their fantastic coverage, they actually have so much things that they cover, right? It's just an iffy match, but if you give them that energy advantage, it can probably flip the match, alright? Right, especially if you're playing to your best skill, plus if you have the best IVs, okay? So yeah, think about it as a bunch of safe swaps with massive coverages and not as Pokemon with just a lot of iffy matchups, okay? Oh my god. Again, so much for a single element, right? But I hope you're doing okay. You know, you still fresh in the no, probably not. You know, maybe take a break. You take a break, just come back. There's the pin stamps in the pinned comment so that you can come back here whenever you want. Just maybe take a bath, watch some anime. I don't know, have a meal, talk to some friends. You know, get some sunlight. Okay. But we're moving on to the fairies. Okay, and with the fairies, something that they share with the rest. Again, they're pretty good anti-flyers. The thing is with Noctowl, if you're facing off an opponent with fantastic IVs, they can actually beat your Wigglytuff, right? They can actually get to the third Sky Attack to kill you. So my advice is really just do not, as you can see, like 2 HP, right? Do not throw your charge moves. Just go straight Charm and it'll fix the problem, right? Just straight Charm and then spam your charge attacks, right? Because you don't want to die with that energy. That's a waste. Same thing with the Alone the Ninetails. This is already with maximized stats. As you can see, yes, again 2 HP. So again, don't throw your charge attacks and then spam your charge attacks once you take out Noctowl, alright? The fire types are bad news to the fairies, alright? With Alolan Marowak, just straight Bone Club on Wigglytuff and Alolan Ninetails, and then straight Shadow Ball for Togekiss. And then with Charizard, straight Blast Burn destroys all of them. Once again, the steel types, bad news for the fairies, except for this matchup, which we've covered so many times. Ice Punch Shield Bait, 2 Bulldozes for the win. Gyro Ball definitely helps. The fairies are actually pretty good ice type slayers except for Togekiss, who is part flying. Togekiss versus Frostlass is an IV based thing. This is with maximized stats. With the best IVs, Frostlass can win this. Interesting thing here is that even if you go Charm Down, Farm Down, it's not gonna work out, right? So if you're Togekiss and you're facing off with a Frostlass, throw it. Same type coverage. This is all about charm tricks, right? Do you want to just Charm Down, Farm Down? You might win, but what if your opponent does the same, and does that mean that you get like a simultaneous KO? Do you want to throw your charge attack and then get the shield and then take the charge attack and not block it so that you can farm down your opponent and still have that shield advantage? There's just so many ways to go about this, right? So just practice, I guess. Water type coverage is one of the things that make the fairies a side grade to the steels. They both take out the flyers, except for Noctowl, yes, okay? They both have like a good amount of like ice type coverage, and then the steels have the fairies have this. And later on, we're gonna talk about another one, right? But yes, now there is one Mudboy who is a massive threat to all the fairies and actually has killed some of my Shiftries, alright? Sludge Wave, Swampert, alright? So does that mean that Sludge Wave is the way to go with Swampert? Earthquake, let's get rid of that? Actually, I will talk about that in episode 3. You will be surprised. Now, some other iffy matches, Togekiss and Quagsire here, is a tie. And it's not a CMP tie, it's just a tie, right? So yeah, does it help to Charm Down, Farm Down? Actually, no, it does not. But what does help is IVs, right? So if you maximize, but yeah, you will survive and you will win, okay? I don't understand why the Charm Down, Farm Down does not help. Actually, it just... Now for the Whiscash Togekiss matchup there, if Whiscash lands the Blizzard, it wins, right? So you have to block it. How do you know? This is actually a shout out to one of the battlers who follow me on Twitter. I saw his name, Ice9 Ursine, right? And I just could not forget the counting for Blizzard, right? Ice9, Blizzard, okay? 9 mud shots to a Blizzard. Shouts out to the guy though, right? But the last thing that we have to talk about, Quagsire 100% beats Alolan Ninetails, and that is a disadvantage. Moving on to the counter users, this is again another thing that the fairies have as side grades of the steel types, right? They can actually beat Heracross. But one fairy stands out, well, flies above the rest, Togekiss, right? Which double resists counter and hence beats Escavalier, right? The only one that can actually beat the fairies. And finally, the grass types, and since Venusaur is part poison and has that Sludge Bomb, it can beat the fairies. Advantages and disadvantages. Wigglytuff here, this pink bunny egg is the best fairy, right? It's got Quagsire over Alolan Ninetails, and it's got the ice types over Togekiss. The one thing that Togekiss has is the counter users, right? So it's got Escavalier. Alright, so if you're thinking of your team comps, your lines of threes, and you need flying, ice, fairy, then the steel types might be what you're looking for. Plus, Bronzong has the fighters, Alolan Sandslash has Shiftry, Probopass with Spark can kill Empoleon, plus has some fire, right? Empoleon really kills the fire, plus has some fight with the Mud Boys. But maybe you're looking for something with massive coverage, especially as a safe swap, then the ice types have you covered. If you're looking for something that can cover Bronzong and the fighters, the counter users, then Frostlass. If you're looking for something that can beat Swampert and Shiftry, then Cloister. Ninetails. But maybe you're looking for something that covers the flying, the ice types, the mud boys, the fighters, and Shiftry Breloom. Then the fairies have you covered, right? If you're looking for the best fairy, Wigglytuff. If you're looking for something for Escavalier, then Togekiss. If you're looking for something that loses to Quagsire, then Alolan Ninetails. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope you are alive. I tried my best to keep it entertaining. I tried to throw some jokes in there. I tried to... but yeah, it's a lot. You know, you can just come back in and out of this video whenever you have the time, whenever you're feeling up to it, whenever your brain is feeling a bit more refreshed. Alright, so yeah, remember to leave a like, comment down below which steel, which ice, which fairy types you're bringing to the Fusion Cup. Check out my Patreon. Big shouts out to all these beautiful people. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate you so much. I also recently added some merch, alright, some hoodies. I'm working on the hats. I'm working on the pop. What do you call those? The pop, the thing that you put in the back of your phone. Those things, I'm working on it. It's just hard. I wanted to keep it all in like one side, but that's actually impossible, right? So yeah, I'm working on it, and coming soon. Subscribe if you haven't yet, ding that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Throat a little bit scratchy after all that talking. Alright, I'm gonna drink my fluids, you know, because I gotta record episode 3. Okay? I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys!